My name's Caroline Poynton from Manchester Bury. I'm recording this today about Nigel Farage because I don't know what this is, but it seems very weird.
The Telegraph's own podcast, The Daily Tea. So we're talking right-wing media here, not something like The Guardian or The Mirror or something like that. I'm talking The Telegraph, the paper that's had Nigel Farage on as a warm and welcome guest more times than either of us can count. Just called the Clacton by-election the biggest mistake of Nigel Farage's contemporary political career. And that's his own side. That's his own side of the press.
Does look like it's...
Right, say that again.
The Telegraph's own podcast, The Daily Tea. So we're talking right-wing media here, not something like The Guardian or The Mirror or something like that. I'm talking The Telegraph, the paper that's had Nigel Farage on as a warm and welcome guest more times than either of us can count. Just called the Clacton by-election the biggest mistake of Nigel Farage's contemporary political career. And that's his own side. That's his own side of the press.
Does look like it's back of a fad packet stuff, I've got to be perfectly honest. I don't think they did wargame it properly, did it? Because it's now looking, frankly, farcical.
And that is even before we get to what happens when Reform send their own people out to defend it. This is a two-part story. Part one, the outlets that are supposed to be in Farage's corner are turning on the tactics. And part two, watch what happens when Reform's rising star tries to clean up the mess anyway. So let's start with the Telegraph, because the framing matters. Daily Tea isn't some anti-reform outlet looking for a scalp. This is the show that's had Farage on to discuss the legacy of Brexit, that treats him as a serious, credible figure worthy of a friendly hour of airtime.
Everything I'm saying, by the way, honestly comes from a place of love. I know Reform people will be watching this and thinking, oh, you just hate Reform, you just having it. No. I'm genuinely open-minded. I want to see which centre-right party is going to be the opposition party at the next election. Yeah.
I mean, it's the first rule of politics.
Yeah.
Grow a thick skin.
Yeah.
Just take it, it's not a nice
Ride it out.
Now, you can tell that that's not a hostile interviewer building a takedown. That's someone who likes the party, watching the party leader make what she calls a serious strategic blunder and feeling the need to say out loud that she's not enjoying this. But she actually touches on the part that should worry Reform more than the finances. Whilst this is all unfolding, there's going to be another election, the Manchester mayoral election, Andy Burnham's own backyard, and a race Reform generally had a shot at making him an embarrassment for him.
What has the party now told its workers to do? Stop campaigning in Manchester, come to Clacton.
Yes, Reform UK activists have been urged to divert from the Greater Manchester mayoral by-election to support Nigel Farage's contest 250 miles away.
Reform activists are now told to stop campaigning in Manchester and come to Clacton instead. It reminds me of the Boris Johnson, we need to put a square around the Pritzker kind of mentality, that one person is more than the party itself. And again, they point out how it hammers home that this is just a one-man band.
Government.
Well, they'll say all Nigel is interested in is Nigel.
Yes.
And then they will reaffirm
like that.
But then they'll reaffirm what he has been denying for months and years. He will reaffirm that it really is a one-man band.
Yeah.
That this whole party has to convene because basically his skin hasn't been thick enough.
I mean, directing resources away from a fight that a man, who's about to become Prime Minister, to instead help Farage answer his own finances 250 miles away. If you're a Reform activist who signed up to help take the fight to Labour, and instead you're being asked to go door knocking so your leader can feel vindicated about a $5 million gift, it's not a small ask, especially when his only opponent is a man dressed as a bin. It's also costing them money. A Telegraph exclusive cited at the same episode reports a donor who gave them $25,000 to the party, saying he won't contribute again until what he calls this cloud hanging over the issue is resolved. And then there's this should really sting, because it turns out Farage's own language is being used against him. He framed the whole thing as the people versus the establishment. Kemi Badenoch responded by saying if that's really the case, then Count Binface might be the people's candidate. Now, it might just be a throwaway joke, but that's the leader of the opposition using Farage's own campaign slogan to hand the underdog status to a man in a bin costume. At the time of writing, the bookies had Farage at 1-6 to win and Binface at 7-2. Long odds against him actually losing, but short enough that a serious bookmaker thinks it's worth pricing in the humiliation. One more thread worth pulling before we move on though, because it's a contradiction sitting inside Reform's own ranks. Robert Jenrick was asked directly whether the party had wargamed a scenario where no major party fielded a candidate against Farage.
answer.
When you were
So-
making decisions about what to do, did you wargame this possibility that they would not?
For sure. Look, we know that they're like this. Look,
Now, Jenny Rickard said for sure they'd considered every scenario, but Farage himself, in a separate interview, was asked exactly the same question and gave the opposite answer.
Mr. Farage confessed, no, of course not. Why would they not contest?
Mm-hmm.
It's a real election.
So that's two people at the top of reform giving
Really
contradictory
different
answer.
sentences, yeah.
Either
Different
Jenrick's
answers,
overselling the strategy after the fact, or Farage wasn't really told what the strategy was. So that's the coverage from people who like reform. Now watch what happens when Reform sends somebody out who actually wants to defend all of this. Lady Cunningham, Reform's hand-picked candidate for London Mayor in
Yeah, 'cause what money is she
2028,
being
personally
given?
announced by Farage himself and no internal contest, has done this a few times over the space of a few days now, on different stations, and falling apart every single time. Tom Swarbrick managed to get her to admit that she doesn't understand the actual words that she's using.
No, I mean, being the chairman of a political party is like an honorary role. He was not politically active. And you know,
As the chairman of... But Nigel Farage, as leader of that organisation before he was an MP, was doing that. He was asking all of those things.
Because they just don't have a fucking
He was saying vote reform.
no, he was a social media influencer. He was a GB News supporter.
He was not publicly agitating for people to vote for reform whilst the chairman of that organisation.
I haven't seen all his social media posts. I don't. You know, Nigel's convinced, and he's sure that he's sought legal advice. He has done nothing.
Yes. So you would agree, if he had been advocating for reform in that role, he would be being politically active in the way in which you're absolutely right. The person who's the accountant would not.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact term of what politically active, and it seems to be quite subjective depending on who you're talking to.
Krishnan Guru Murthy managed to get her to admit that she doesn't have or hasn't seen the proof of her claims.
I'm surprised you're not
What
focusing
about
on the
the
fact that the
fact
National
that-
Crime Agency leaked one of our MPs' bank statements to The Guardian. Yeah, I do.
you don't know where
We
it
have
came
proof
from.
of it. Of course I do.
What's the
Yeah.
proof?
We have proof that it came from the National Crime Agency.
What is the proof?
I don't have it myself. I'm not. You're going to have to ask Richard
Okay.
Harris.
And now she's popped up on Talk TV in what she must have thought would have been an easier ride. Cunningham opens by claiming that the political class closed ranks within 24 hours to gang up on Farage. Ooh, the big bullies. Proof, she says, of an establishment conspiracy.
If ever you've seen how the political class is ganging up against Nigel, this is the prime example. They closed ranks within 24 hours, went to speak to the
Everybody
speaker,
ganged
and
up on that Keir Starmer.
if there's any example of how they all gang up against him, not to stand in a by-election, and you know very
I
well,
understand
Nigel,
why
that
we
if they thought any chance of beating him at the ballot box, they would have stood somewhere.
I completely agree with you on
He's
that.
not-
But they
he's
don't
not
have to
getting-
gang
he's
up
not
on it
putting
because
his
individuals decide we don't want to play.
Julia doesn't let it go, though. The actual body investigating him includes members who aren't party political at all, and Tory MPs on that committee have previously condemned their own party's MPs and even Conservative Prime Ministers. Cunningham's answer is to say that it's not the same thing as parties colluding to cancel elections.
If they don't play, they literally just don't play his game, then his tactic doesn't work.
It's not a game, it's democracy. There are two questions that want to be... Did Nigel break the rules? And that's something for the parliamentary standards. What do you think?
No, but he's saying, okay, if the argument is you've heard everything, well, they haven't heard everything because we haven't got the evidence. No, I mean, I follow this stuff quite closely, Leila, and I haven't heard everything, so I'd be very surprised if your average voter in
How do you
Clapham
know you haven't heard everything? You're assuming there's more to come.
because we don't have the outcome of that investigation in Parliament.
But the outcome is a separate process, and that will come.
The outcome
This
will
is-
give us a lot of
this is-
information. There'll be a report and
Well,
will tell
it will
us.
just be like if he's suspended or not.
No,
It will be
no.
if he broke parliamentary rules. And
No,
And
because it will outline how he voted, how he broke the rules, or how he didn't break the rules. So there is an independent body that decides this.
Now, this bit is probably worth playing back to Reform voters.
Is this the hill to die on? The right to take £5 million from crypto billionaires
No,
and
the
hang
hill
out
to
with
die on.
a convicted fraudster?
The hill to die on is that politicians, the final say in a democracy are the voters.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And that is the hill to die on.
Is this really the hill to die on? The right to take 5 million from a crypto billionaire and associate with a convicted fraudster? Now, did you notice that Cunningham doesn't actually answer that question? She answered a different one entirely. The hill to die on is that politicians' final say in a democracy are the voters, which is usually a sign someone's rehearsed that answer to a question that wasn't really asked. Then the collapse. Julia asks what Reform's actual defence policy is. When pushed about being ready for government, Julia just, bam, nails her.
By the way, Reform aren't calling for seriously calling for general election.
Yes, we are seriously
you
calling
guys
for a
are
general
not
election.
ready for. You haven't even got
Don't tell
candidates
us what we're
vetted.
calling for, Julia. Of course we are calling for a general election. Bring it
Not
on.
seriously, you're not. You know
100%.
perfectly well your party isn't.
Seriously.
Your party is not remotely. You don't even have spokespeople on some of the key subjects like defence.
Do you think it only comes down to spokespeople? Do you think
I don't think it only comes. I think having candidates in place who are vetted.
Nigel's the best person to speak on defence.
Cunningham's first move is to nominate Farage as the best person to speak on defence, rather than state it as a policy. Pushed again, she says that she's not going to go through the defence policy right now, which is a strange thing to say about a policy if it exists.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. What's your defence policy?
I'm not going to go through the defence policy here right now. I'm not the defence.
Because the party doesn't have an official defence policy, has it?
What's the defence policy of Labour? To underspend, underfund, and keep us unsafe the borders.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Terrifying.
So I
So
can
what's
guarantee
the
that it
Reform
won't be
defence
that.
policy?
You know what our defence policy is? To enact the first duty of government, and that is to keep this country safe by all means.
And that is
our
tens
defence
of
policy.
billions of pounds. And where's that money coming from?
Well, that starts with controlling the borders.
Mm-hmm. That's a good start. Yeah, you want to get rid of net zero?
Julia, I'm not going to go through. It's not a gotcha moment that you're trying to catch me out.
It's not a gotcha.
I can't list our defence policy.
Julia names outright the party doesn't have an official defence policy. Cunningham's best answer is to ask what Labour's defence policy is instead. Then offer to enact the first duty of government, keep this country safe by all means, which isn't a policy, it's just a slogan, before she defaults to her factory seconds and says it starts with controlling borders. Her own final line gives the game away. I can't list our defence policy. Nobody put those words in her mouth, she said them herself. So let's put all this together and you've got a story with two layers. The people who are supposed to be cheering Reform on think this by-election was a genuine unforced error, costing them a real shot at embarrassing Labour in Manchester, costing them donors and handing Kemi Badenoch a free line to use against Farage's own slogan. And then the person Reform keeps sending out to try and do some damage control and clean up the mess can't even get through a single interview without contradicting herself, admitting that she doesn't know the basic facts about her own campaign or simply refusing to answer the question that was actually asked. Nigel Farage built his whole career on being the one politician who says what he thinks and doesn't flinch from a fight. What his own side is showing this week is a party that can't articulate why it's fighting in this one at all. And to see how it's drastically going wrong for him, well, you need to watch the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.
Bit weird, isn't it? It's all weird with Nigel. Shit with Nigel, he's a dodger. I told you he was dodging. I knew he was a fucking weirdo, Nigel Farage. I fucking knew it. We are. Four weeks ago. Okay, that was in Mayfield. Let's show it.
I beg to move that Mr. Speaker do issue his warrant to the...
Well, let's get the views on that in the company of Steve N. Allen, comedian and broadcaster. Steve, what is your view of Nigel Farage's gamble in regard to this by-election in Clacton-on-Sea? Has he bitten off more than he can chew?
I don't think so, because I think if you game it out, most outcomes still end up being some form of a win for Nigel Farage on this. Most of them are showing the signs that the establishment is overbearing. Some of the outcomes would be the establishment is weak. So it depends whether he wins or whether he loses. So when he originally came up with this plan, it looked fairly solid. One option could have been he wasn't allowed the by-election, or it was delayed until after the parliamentary standards report. Well, that's the establishment showing too much control. It could have been that everyone stood against it, that only some stood against him, some of the parties were stood down. Well, that would have shown that they're teaming up together. This is almost like that on steroids, that no one stands against him because there's nothing to win. I think it's a mixture of of being afraid, but also realising what the gamble for the other parties. They don't win anything, but they can only lose ground. But by having a Count Binface and now all of the other interesting types, let's call them out, some bloke dressed as a fox is one of the other ones standing, isn't he? Which I did point out yesterday. I was talking to someone. If you've got a bloke dressed as a fox and a bloke dressed as a bin, it's going to be carnage. It's going to be food all over the place. You know what they're like.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it's all the ribs strewn out on the pavement.
Now there's a guy called Mr. Fishfinger or something. He's literally going to be the thing that the fox eats out of the bin. It's terrible. But it's becoming a farce. But the problem is the establishment are taking it a little bit too seriously, aren't they? There never should have been a bit where anyone tried to even mention Count Binface. If you're Labour, if you're the Tories, you should have just ignored it. Because if you're going to try and make it look like an actual contender is Count Binface, you're making a mockery of democracy, and that shows that you're weak, because then you're the establishment making their own move. I can't believe they fell for it.
Most definitely.
I'm not following it. I'm voting for Binface.
Incoming Prime Minister Andy Burnham.
No.
Everyone is running scared of Rupert Lowe, as not only are they trying to take him down, they're trying to destroy him. Because they don't like that he's actually doing something about the Great Games with the inquiry, and for some reason appearing on Joe Rogan podcast. Labour MP Afzal Khan has reported Rupert Lowe to the parliamentary authorities, and in this video we're going to have a look at the full report and Rupert Lowe's response. This is Combat Ready HQ, where we bring real news, real reactions and the truth. You can like, share, subscribe and turn the notifications bell, and it would be hugely appreciated, and remember to hype the video. You won't see much of Rupert Lowe in the mainstream media, but we make sure we get the news to you here at Combat Ready HQ. Having a look at the letter then. Dear Daniel, I am writing to raise deep concern about the conduct of Rupert Lowe, MP for Great Yarmouth and leader of Restore Britain. On 8th July, Rupert Lowe MP appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, in which he claimed that parallel Sharia courts are tolerated within the UK judicial system. This is not only a flagrant lie, but is deeply inflammatory and fuels Islamophobia, and therefore I believe brings the House of Commons into disrepute. As part of the conversation in the podcast, Lowe claimed they have their own courts, Sharia courts. Yes, a parallel legal system. When he is asked if such a system is recognised by the UK government, he confirms that it is tolerated. He goes on to claim that they are Muslims policing their own people under their own laws. When asked if the UK government is allowing this to take place, Lowe confirms they're allowing that, yeah. I'm not going to lie, in my opinion, from everything I've heard, seen and researched, it does look like Sharia law and their courts is going on in the UK. And the UK government know about it. Sharia councils in the UK have no official legal or constitutional role. Their work consists primarily of adjudicating on religious divorces, though they may also give verdicts on other aspects of day-to-day life for Muslims, for example, on Sharia-compliant finance or on halal food. This is, of course, similar to the function of the Beth Din within Jewish communities, which provides civil arbitration as an alternative to court action under the Arbitration Act 1996. This is not called out or criticised by Lowe in a podcast interview. We've also seen the videos of Sharia patrols policing streets in places such as London and Birmingham. This is unfortunately not the first time Rupert Lowe MP has fed into far-right tropes which seek to sow division in society and scapegoat Muslims. He recently published a report, the Great Gang Inquiry Report, which claimed that Muslim gangs are to blame for the abuse in Britain. He has claimed that at the very least 250,000 young white girls have been subjected to repeated gang rape, trafficking and also torture, primarily by the Pakistani Muslim men since mass migration began in the 1950s. This claim is not backed by any evidence and is of course another well-versed Islamophobic trope, applying suspicion to all Muslims and treating every Muslim as collectively responsible for the actions of the few. Unfortunately, this is not the first time that Rupert Lowe MP has championed policies that have been widely rebuked and labelled Islamophobic. As leader of Restore Britain, he stands on a platform which calls for banning the burqa and halal slaughter, and the stripping of citizenship from individuals it does not agree with, singling out Ala Abdul Fattah, a Muslim British citizen. Georgios Samaras, Assistant Professor of Public Policy at the School for Government and the Policy Institute at King's College London, has said that Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain are the expressions of neo-Nazism in this country. Appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast itself is extremely problematic. Joe Rogan has, a number of times, made Islamophobic comments made towards British Muslims, In an interview with Vice President J.D. Vance, Rogan vowed to counter Vance's sort of joke that the UK is heading towards being the first Islamist country with nuclear weapons. This follows a concerning trend on the podcast, which has in recent years become increasingly relaxed about its fact verification process. Rogan has peddled COVID-19 conspiracies, downplayed the illness itself, and promoted vaccine skepticism. He has also had accusations of anti-Semitism made against him and has hosted controversial conspiracy theorist Alex Jones on his platform 3 times. It is concerning that an elected member of the House would wish to associate with a platform which has failed to uphold a pursuit of truth as its primary function, and it has even more worrying that Lowe wished to use it to spread yet further Islamophobic disinformation. Joe Rogan, the largest podcast in the world, just a normal guy having normal conversations, basically trying to find out the truth, trying to understand people. And a lot of what he said on there is true, and the majority of it is his opinion. So they're allowed to talk about it. No one's saying that it was all Muslims that conducted or were part of the inquiry. But what they're saying is the evidence found that the majority of men that were doing it were certain groups from certain communities and certain backgrounds. Like other members of Parliament, Rupert Lowe's MPs' words and actions create a hostile working environment, particularly for Muslim MPs. His remarks on his podcast and the policies he promotes only serve to encourage further abuse and threats of violence against members of that House, of which by now you recognise is already at an all-time high. I have no doubt that anti-Muslim hatred like this will have a lasting impact on our politics, our Parliament and the public's engagement with it. This behaviour violates the House of Commons Code of Conduct and the 7 principles of public life. In particular, the principles of objectivity, honesty and leadership. Given those an elected member of Parliament and a party leader, I would therefore implore you to launch an investigation into his behaviour. As it is evident, his rampant racism not only seeks to stoke the flames of division in our society, but risks bringing the entire House under disrepute. You get an MP that wants to stick up for all British people, no matter your background, people who are just proud of living in this country and being British. And because he says things that other people won't say, even though it's what the people are thinking, they now are trying to absolutely destroy him.
What we need to
and
do
it's the same old stuff.
is they need to go there, speak to the people.
No one's
of
saying
Pakistan,
that he just wants white
buy
British
some
people
land,
living in the country.
and we
He's
build
just saying,
jail there,
if you're
massive
here
one.
illegally, or you are a migrant in this country and you've
And
been
anywhere
granted
else.
citizenship
New
or
Hampshire,
indefinitely
same.
remain, but you've committed some sort of crime, especially some sort of serious crime, then you will be deported. No longer will illegal migrants be able to enter the country, get access to welfare benefits, nice housing, etc. That will go to the British people, all British people of all backgrounds, those that are proud to be British and live in Britain.
I just want to talk to you about digital security. On this channel, we talk about national security, immigration crisis, border controls, surveillance. There's another battlefield going on, and that is the internet. You think all your data is protected, but it's like sending a private message in a group chat every time you connect to Wi-Fi. Whether it's in a hotel, gyms, coffee shops, even your home Wi-Fi, you are susceptible to hackers. That is why today's video is sponsored by Private Internet Access, PIA VPN. PIA VPN encrypts your internet traffic through its world-class server infrastructure. It encrypts your connection, conceals your location, and shields your data. And the best part is you can protect an unlimited amount of devices on one subscription. So your phone, your laptop, and your iPad. Anyone on the same network as you could potentially access your photos, your data, keystrokes, and your passwords. And we know trust matters. That's why I chose PIA VPN. With over 30 million downloads, a strict no-log policy which is proven in court. So they do not collect data and they do not share your data. And it's easy to connect anywhere in the world. So you can choose your location, including all 50 states in the US. You select the server you want to join, you connect, and you are protected. And you can get
a Labour MP
in the description.
Abdul Khan has just reported me to the parliamentary authorities for my criticisms of Sharia courts, the burqa and halal slaughter. In addition, he's reported our Great Game inquiry for seeking to scapegoat Muslims and sow division in society. He's also included in his report, published on his Facebook page, My appearance on Joe Rogan's show. Appearing on Rogan's podcast itself, he says, is extremely problematic. I'd like to be abundantly clear in my response. I will not be apologising. I will not be silenced. My views are shared by a large majority of British people, and there is finally a political party willing to stand up for the patriotic majority, restore Britain. Then we've got Rupert's response letter to Mr. Khan. Dear Mr. Khan, thank you for taking the time to report me to the parliamentary authorities over my criticisms of Sharia courts, the burqa and halal slaughter. Not just that, but you also included our independent inquiry into the Muslim great gangs and my experience on Joe Rogan's podcast, which you deem to be extremely problematic. Carefully devising and formulating your complaint was clearly time well spent for a politician representing such a neglected part of Greater Manchester.
It's because
The
he's
multiple
exposing
footnotes
it all.
referenced in Joe's podcast, the most watched on the planet, were particularly entertaining, very helpful, thank you. But joking aside, I want to be really clear in my response to your various complaints. These are barbaric, medieval, and backward Islamic practices that have no place in our country. When Restore Britain gains power, they will all be banned on day one. It will be glorious. On your criticism of our Great Gang inquiry, I would specifically invite you to a meeting with Sammy Woodhouse, a survivor who was raped by a Pakistani man and has been leading our inquiry. Sammy is very keen to discuss our findings with you. In short, mass industrial rape of vulnerable white girls right across Britain by gangs of Muslim men, including in Greater Manchester, where the Labour Party and Andy Burnham have failed so spectacularly. Please let me know a date and time when it's convenient. In the meantime, I've attached a copy of our inquiry report and also a mass deportation plan for your reading. Both complement one another. In future, if you have an issue with my politics, please come directly to me for an adult discussion, rather than running to the authorities in an attempt to censor my views, which are held by a large majority of British people. Thanks for your attention, as always, and I look forward to a second complaint. Rupert Lowe, MP. I think he's right. I think there is a large majority of British people that agree with Rupert Lowe, hence the momentum they've had. No one's asking just for everyone to be deported. They're asking for criminals who have come here, either legally or illegally, but have not abided by British law and rule. Joe Rogan's podcast, the largest in the world. So many people have been on it, over 2,500 episodes. Very well liked and trusted. Maybe they do get things wrong sometimes, but it's just normally two people having a discussion, trying to get their points across, trying to spread good information, correct information. It's a great podcast for Rupert Lowe to get on.
Yeah.
To spread the word.
I think it is as well. I think he's doing well in America. He's staying in America for a bit.
Be slightly out. I most probably think they are more than likely accurate. But what happened was
and then come back for a by-election here in Manchester.
Apprehendable. But people don't like it when the truth comes out because so many people try to silence it. Because
they don't like
what it shows is a large group of the people were of a certain, say, ethnic background or minority. They don't like that. I'm not saying there wasn't white men involved. You had the police force involved, social services, the NHS. If you look at the whole inquiry, they're just picking a small snippet. There's politicians who are white,
police officers
and women.
Also,
the NHS, the police, social services, and more were involved. But because of that one group is spoken about, that's all they're picking at. Please read the whole 200-page inquiry.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you'll really understand what went on. It was a failure at all levels. And people are forgetting, because a certain ethnic group have been pointed out and named, that actually they're not the victims. Not this religious group, not this ethnic group.
They're just pretending
are young girls.
Sick of it.
And because of that, because a certain group has been named, they're trying to destroy a politician's life,
his fault,
career,
his
family life. It can affect his personal life and business life. But what they forget is there is a large group of people that agree with the majority of what Rupert says. I'm not saying all of it, but they agree with the majority of it.
Well, like you say, get a couple of things wrong, like you say, make some sense with what you're saying or not. You know,
when it comes to the by-election recently, and why they will do well.
Look at Nigel Farage, he's meant to have made a mistake.
Whether they win or not is another question. But they will do well. They're beating the Conservatives.
Yeah.
They're taking people from reform, and they are fighting against Labour,
And they will
they're
be,
even
mate.
beating the Greens.
They will. I
Anyway,
mean, at the end of the day, I
can't
think that
keep throwing
people
around
in
the word
Clapton, or
neo-Nazism or
whatever,
anything
just
like
for a
that.
moment, should
Yes,
vote for
they're a
Bin
right-wing
Face.
political party.
Just vote for
But they
Bin
speak
fucking Face,
for a
shall
large
we? For a
majority
minute.
of British people.
Because,
You
for
can't
goodness
keep
sake,
doing
you
this.
can't,
Anyway,
you
I'd love to
cannot
know your
win
thoughts on
just
this,
yet.
so
He
please
has
do
not
comment
got
below. Once
everything
again, thank
he
you for
needs
watching.
yet.
I appreciate all the support.
You know,
If you could
Reform
like, share,
have had
subscribe,
a
turn
lot more
notifications bell
longer
on.
to get
It'd be
everything
hugely
together than Restore
appreciated.
Britain.
And we'll check you in the next video. Thank you.
Reform are the ones that are being unfair to everyone here. Right, are being unfair to fucking the Green Party and the fucking Restore Britain. To be honest with you, Reform Party are being unfair to everything. To be honest with myself. I mean, I even like Kerry Badenoch. I'm not voting for Kerry Badenoch, but I have already said if something can happen with Kerry Badenoch and Rupert Lowe, then yeah, I would vote for Kerry Badenoch. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to put on here as well.
I reckon he'll be firmly against that. Hello there.
Hi, Jeff.
Now, whether you like the Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe or not, you must admit that he has shattered the Overton window by securing that mass deportation debate in Parliament on Monday.
Yep, and he's secured it, and he hates him. He's the one that's done all the hard work, not Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Right.